My husband told me he had a work retreat over my birthday weekend, so I spent it alone. 3 days later, I found out he took my sister to a romantic spa resort instead and paid for it with the birthday money he secretly took from my wallet. I know it sounds like a nightmare, but the worst part is, every detail in this story is true. Nothing was made up. This is my life, and this is how I lost my husband, lost my sister, and also how I found myself again. My name is Vivian. I'm 31 years old. I was married to Ethan for 4 years. We met at a marketing seminar in San Diego. At the time, I was working as an assistant communications director, and he was one of the guest speakers. Ethan had the kind of gaze that made you stop mid-step. Not movie star handsome, but warm and steady. He made me feel truly heard, something I rarely experienced with anyone. We got to know each other quickly, fell in love just as fast. But I never thought that was a mistake. Our first 3 years together were the most peaceful of my life. We rented a small apartment near the beach. On weekends, we would visit the farmer's market together. Ethan loved baking bread from scratch. I adored fresh flowers. Our kitchen always smelled like lemon zest and rosemary. Those little things, they were my whole world. And then Jade moved in. Jade is my younger sister, 6 years younger than me. She had just graduated from college, was job hunting, and didn't know anyone in the city. As the eldest sibling, I naturally felt it was my responsibility to help her. Ethan didn't object. In fact, he even said, "We have a spare room anyway. Having someone to split the utility bills with doesn't hurt." I remember laughing and saying, "You're so practical." If I had known how far things would spiral, maybe I never would have let her walk through that door. But back then, I didn't know. Jade was family. She was my sister. I trusted her more than I trusted myself. We used to share clothes, sing along to the same songs, and write letters to Mom whenever she traveled for work. I never thought that one day she'd be the one to break me. Jade moved in with us on a sunny Sunday afternoon. She brought exactly 3 suitcases and a canvas tote covered in band stickers I didn't recognize. Ethan helped her carry things upstairs while I tidied the spare room and folded clean sheets I had washed the day before. "You don't have to do all that," Jade said, panting slightly after hauling her bags up the stairs. "I'm only staying for a few weeks." I smiled. "Don't be shy. Treat this like your home." Looking back now, that sentence tastes bitter in my mouth. The first few weeks were fine. Jade was sweet, helpful. She'd help with cooking, did the dishes often, and always brought back quirky snacks she was excited to share. Ethan seemed comfortable around her. I even saw him laugh out loud when Jade told a story about accidentally interviewing at a sketchy massage place, thinking it was a legit wellness center. They got along weirdly well. At the time, I thought it was a good thing. I used to feel happy seeing the person I loved and my family getting along. But slowly, something began to unsettle me. Subtle. Faint. Like a cold draft brushing the back of my neck. It started with small things. One Friday evening, Ethan and I had plans to go out for dinner, something we often did to end the week. But just as I finished getting dressed and was ready to leave, Ethan got a text. I saw his brows furrow, then a sigh. "Jade says she's having awful stomach pain. Must have eaten something bad earlier." I was worried. "Should we take her to the clinic?" Ethan shook his head. "I'll go check on her." He went upstairs, 10 minutes, then 20. Nearly an hour passed. I sat in the living room, legs crossed, staring at my watch. Dinner was canceled. When Ethan came back down, he looked tired. I was talking to Jade. She's okay now, but maybe we should go out tomorrow instead. It's kind of late anyway. I nodded. Didn't think too much of it. But later, when I went upstairs to check on her myself, I found Jade lying on her bed, giggling over something on her phone. No sign of serious pain. No pale face, just laughter and glowing cheeks. The next morning, I asked gently, You feeling okay now? Jade blinked. Yesterday? Oh, yeah, I'm fine. Probably just a spoiled sandwich or something. Ethan said you were in a lot of pain. She shrugged, brushing it off. He worries too much. And just like that, she changed the subject. From that moment on, I started paying more attention. Another time, I came home from work earlier than usual. All I could think about was my aching back and how much I wished I had a cup of ginger tea waiting. As I walked through the door, I heard laughter coming from the kitchen. Loud, carefree, like there wasn't a third person silently standing at the entrance. I saw Ethan and Jade sitting across from each other at the dining table. Ethan wore a plain white t-shirt, his hair a mess, and Jade was feeding him a spoonful of pudding. I froze for a few seconds. It wasn't anything scandalous. No kissing, no touching. But something about it felt wrong. Deeply wrong. They noticed me. Ethan stood up immediately. You're back? I made coconut pudding. Thought you'd want to try. Jade fed it to you? I asked, voice calm, almost too calm. Even I could hear how hard I was trying to hold it together. She said my hands were clumsy. That's all. Ethan chuckled awkwardly. We were just joking. I smiled too, but it was the kind of smile that cracks like glass under pressure. From that day on, I started noticing Ethan's eyes, the way he looked at Jade. Not always obvious, but sometimes the gaze lingered just a beat too long. One night, I woke up around midnight feeling thirsty. When I went down to the kitchen, the living room lights were still on. Ethan was sitting there, phone in hand. He didn't see me. I was about to say something, but then the screen's glow lit up his face. He was smiling, typing something fast, very fast. I stepped back, returned to the bedroom, said nothing. The next morning, I asked, You stayed up late last night? Couldn't sleep, just watched some funny videos. I didn't ask more, but from that night on, a hollowness began settling in my chest. Jade started changing too. She began wearing thinner clothes. At first, I thought it was just the summer heat. But sometimes she'd walk past the living room, where Ethan was, in spaghetti strap tops, no bra, no cover-up, as if it was the most natural thing. I pulled her aside. You should be a bit more mindful. There's a man in the house after all. She raised her eyebrows. You mean Ethan? I mean, anyone. It's just basic decency. She smiled. A tiny smile, but one that sent a chill down my spine. Don't worry, sis. I'd never cross a line. I respect you. I know, I replied, but I wasn't so sure anymore. One afternoon, I came home early to surprise Ethan with a home-cooked dinner for our relationship anniversary. I'd stopped by a French bakery to pick up his favorite tiramisu. I was planning to make baked salmon and butter garlic asparagus, the very first meal I ever made him when we started dating. I was genuinely excited. Truly. But when I got home, I heard music coming from Jade's room. It wasn't loud, but the song playing was Can't Take My Eyes Off You, the same song Ethan had played when he proposed to me. I saw Ethan standing just outside her door. It was slightly ajar. He was smiling. I slammed the front door shut. Ethan jumped, startled, and hurried downstairs. You're back? I was just knocking to tell Jade dinner's ready. Her music was a bit loud. I looked at the clock. 5:18 p.m. You don't remember what day it is? He fell silent, eyes wide. I smiled faintly. You really forgot. That night, I ate alone. No salmon, no cake. I packed all the food into the fridge. I didn't say a word that night. No accusations, no fighting, no reminders of what he forgot. I simply washed my face, changed into something soft, and sat alone on the back porch. The evening sun stretched its light across the old brick tiles. The neighbor's cat quietly jumped over the fence and curled up in the garden corner. It felt like the whole world had decided to go silent with me. I used to believe that happiness was something you protected with trust, that if you loved hard enough, forgave deep enough, compromised long enough, Things would eventually work out. But sitting there under the windless sky, all I felt was that my heart was like a piece of paper crumpled and crushed, not torn, but never smooth again. Ethan began to drift away, but in the most subtle way. He didn't act cold. He still ate dinner with me, still asked how I slept, still held me in bed. But he no longer truly saw me. His eyes passed over me like I was just background decor. Familiar, not ugly, not beautiful, just there. I was becoming part of the scenery in his life. Jade, on the other hand, became brighter. She sparkled like someone newly lit from within. Every time Ethan was home, she'd pop up at just the right moment, with an amusing story, a crop top that revealed just enough, or a new recipe she found online. I didn't say anything, didn't confront her. I just watched. My silence wasn't submission. It was documentation. That was when I started checking Ethan's phone, something I'd always thought was a sign of insecurity, something petty. But one night, after he fell asleep on the couch watching sports highlights, I picked it up. My hands were trembling, not because I was afraid of getting caught, but because I wasn't sure I was ready to see the truth. There were no explicit texts, no kissing photos. But his search history? It made my stomach churn. How to delete iPhone location history. Book hotel without second-guessed ID. Is it wrong to love your wife's sister? I felt nauseous. After that, I began monitoring our joint bank account. I'd never paid much attention to Ethan's spending. He always contributed his share. But the more I looked, the more I saw odd transactions. A small jewelry store downtown, one I'd never been to. A dinner bill from a high-end restaurant I'd never heard of. A spa payment in Napa. At the time, I wasn't completely sure. But each detail slowly came together, like fragments of a torn photograph trying to reconstruct something I already knew in my bones. Then my birthday started getting closer. I've always loved birthdays. Not because of the gifts, but because it's the one day each year where I feel like I have the right to ask for the full presence of the people I love. Ethan knew that. He always made my birthday special. Some years he'd cook, others he'd plan a small picnic or take me on a weekend getaway. But that year, just a few days before my birthday, Ethan told me he had to go on a business trip. A mandatory company retreat. One he absolutely couldn't miss, no matter the reason. He said it with a regretful tone, even promised to make it up to me with a private trip just for the two of us. I nodded. I smiled. I even helped him fold his clothes. That night before he left, my grandmother mailed me an envelope like she did every year. Inside was $800 in cash and a shaky handwritten note, wishing my strong and beautiful granddaughter a happy birthday. Don't forget to buy yourself something that reminds you to love who you are. I tucked the money into my wallet, planning to deposit it the next day, but I never got the chance. Ethan left the next morning. I gave him a light hug. He kissed my cheek and apologized again for not being there on my special day. I wished him a safe trip. He didn't look back when he stepped into the car. The next 3 days, I stayed home alone. No party, no visitors. I didn't blame anyone. Everyone has their own life. I baked myself something sweet, watched a few old dramas, and called my mom just to hear her voice. It was such a normal day. It felt almost hollow. I didn't cry, but I didn't smile either. On the evening of the third day, I received an unexpected message. It was from Carla, an old friend I hadn't talked to in ages. She sent me an Instagram story video, 12 seconds long. The camera was panning over the pool of a luxury resort. Light music, a peaceful setting. But in the background, I saw Ethan and Jade, sitting side by side, laughing. His arm draped casually around her shoulders, her head leaning into him, movements that couldn't be mistaken for anything other than intimacy. The clip ended with the two of them gazing at each other and smiling. I didn't replay it. I didn't need to. Once was enough to confirm that everything I'd feared for the past 2 months was true. I checked my wallet. The birthday money was gone. I couldn't remember the last time I'd opened it, but I was certain I hadn't spent any of it. I opened my laptop and logged into our joint bank account. There it was, a $1,200 withdrawal made 3 days ago, the same day Ethan left. No clear label on the expense, but I could see the time and the ATM location. I pretended to be a company employee and called the resort from the video, said I needed an invoice for expense reimbursement. The woman on the phone was cheerful and helpful. She looked up the reservation under Ethan's name and confirmed the booking. A romantic weekend getaway for two, paid with cash and credit card. The total cost, nearly $1,150. I hung up, and I sat there. For a long, long time. My mind was blank. No rage, no pain. Just an endless void I didn't know how to fill. That night, I didn't sleep. I didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't smash anything, didn't reach for a bottle, didn't call a friend like TV shows tell you to. I just sat on the living room floor, phone in hand, the screen paused on that image, the two of them smiling. There was nothing guilty about those smiles, no hesitation, no fear of being caught. It was so casual, so unbothered, as if they were living in a world where I had never existed. And maybe that's exactly how it was. I opened every drawer, pulled out receipts, bank statements, screenshots from the video story, even a photo of the booking confirmation email from the resort, which I had requested using a fake work-related excuse. I gathered them all into one folder, printed everything out, and clipped it neatly together, as if it were a legal case file. Because to me, that's exactly what it was. Ethan came home the next evening. I heard the car engine, then the keys jingling in the lock. I didn't come out to greet him. I just stood in the shadows of the hallway and waited for him to walk in. He smelled like a new cologne, not the one I had picked out for him. In his hands were an expensive box of chocolates and a bottle of red wine. "Birthday makeup gift," he said with a soft smile. I didn't answer. I just stared into his eyes. He hesitated. Maybe he sensed something was wrong. I handed him the iPad, already opened to the video Carla had sent. He watched. His face turned pale. I stayed silent. He pressed his lips together. After a pause, he finally said, "It's not what you think. Jade. She's been going through a rough time. I just wanted to help her feel better." That's all it was. I didn't react. I simply pulled a chair and placed the folder in front of him. Ethan flipped through it. And when he saw the bank records, the booking details, and the email from the front desk woman confirming everything, I saw his expression change. He no longer looked like a regretful husband. He looked like a man cornered. His face darkened. He leaned back in the chair and sighed. "Fine," he said, voice cold. "I've been seeing Jade for a few months. It started with us just talking a lot. And then things happened, but honestly," he looked straight at me, "you're not exactly what you used to be either. Always busy, always tense. You forgot how to make a man feel wanted." I didn't reply. I just stood up and walked toward the bedroom. The door closed behind me with the soft click of the lock, like a tired exhale. That night, I slept in my own bed, but I wasn't the same woman anymore. I wasn't the Vivian from just days ago. I wasn't the wife who carefully planned every dinner and anniversary. I wasn't the older sister who used to shield the crying girl who once clung to her at 13. I didn't yet know who I had become, but I knew one thing. I would never be silent again. The next morning, Ethan tried to act normal. Made coffee. Turned on music. Set the breakfast table like nothing had happened. I said nothing. I quietly gathered a few personal things, put them in the car, drove to the bank, and opened an entirely new account. I also called a lawyer I'd once met at a business seminar. An older woman, stern voice, sharp eyes. I told her everything. No embellishments, no drama, just facts. She nodded. "I'll represent you." I handed her all the documents. She said only one thing: "We're going to do this properly." 2 days later, Jade texted me. Just one line: "I'm sorry. I didn't mean for things to turn out this way." I stared at that message for nearly 30 minutes. Didn't mean for things to turn out this way? So, what was the plan? Did you think it'd be easier if I never found out? Did you truly believe you could marry your sister's husband without consequences? I didn't reply. I just forwarded the Instagram video to my mother. 15 minutes later, my phone rang nonstop. 3 calls from Mom. I didn't answer. I wasn't ready to talk. Not because I was afraid, but because I knew I wouldn't be able to stay calm. I was holding on to the one thing keeping me together: my silence. When the 4th call came through, I turned off my phone. It was the first time in my life I chose me. I sat by the window, holding a cup of ginger tea gone cold, and let myself sink into the sounds of the city. Cars moved slowly below. A bike bell rang in the distance. People still lived, still loved, still laughed. But I felt like I was on pause. An hour later, the landline rang. I thought it would be Mom, but it was my father. He didn't ask how I was, didn't beat around the bush. Just one question, raspy and shaking: "Are you safe?" I didn't respond immediately. My throat tightened. Then he continued: "Your mom's crying." And Tina? She admitted everything. My heart stopped for a second. I didn't need clarification. I knew the Tina he referred to was Jade, the childhood nickname I used to whisper to her when she was scared. My sister had confessed, which meant my whole family knew. Dad didn't say anything else. Just one last line before hanging up: "If you need anything, don't hesitate." That night, I turned my phone back on. 32 missed calls, nearly 200 messages. From my mom, dad, grandma, uncles, aunts, my older brother Robert, and a long list of relatives in the family group chat. In another chat group, there was a long message from Jade, not sent to me personally, sent to the entire extended family. A long paragraph that sounded more like a justification than a true apology. She wrote, "You don't choose who you fall in love with." That it all happened too fast. That they tried to fight their feelings but couldn't. And finally, we never meant to hurt anyone. I read that message 3 times, not to understand it better, but to make sure I wasn't going crazy. Hurting me wasn't some random accident. They made choices, they planned, they scheduled a romantic getaway on the exact weekend of my birthday. They used my money. They laughed together while I stayed home, blowing out candles by myself. That wasn't a mistake. That was betrayal. Complete and inexcusable. Right after Jade's message, the replies started flooding in. Robert, my older brother, was the first to speak, and he didn't hold back. "Tina, you're not in love. You're addicted to attention. You've always chased after the men your sister was with. You did it in high school with Vivian's boyfriend, and now you're doing it again. This isn't love. It's a pattern. A destructive, selfish pattern." I had never heard Robert speak so openly. He's usually quiet, the one who lets things slide. But this time, he spoke for me. A little while later, my mom replied with 6 shocked face emojis. Not a single word. My dad, on the other hand, sent just one line. Disappointed doesn't even begin to describe how I feel. I didn't reply to any of the messages that night. I turned off my phone. I took a long shower, washed my hair slowly, like I was trying to rinse off all the dirt, the sweat, and the invisible stains life had pressed into my skin over the past few weeks. Then I sat on my bed, opened my laptop, and did something I never thought I'd ever have to do. I started writing my divorce papers. The next day, I met with my lawyer for the 2nd time. She looked at me for a long while before saying a word. "What are the grounds you want to file on?" I looked her in the eyes. infidelity, deception, misuse of shared assets for undisclosed personal matters, and ongoing emotional damage. She nodded. We have enough evidence to take this as far as you want. I didn't answer right away. Part of me just wanted it over. But another part wanted Ethan to understand. Not everyone gets to trample on someone else's pain without consequences. That afternoon, I packed the most important things: documents, the jewelry my mom left me, old handwritten letters from Ethan. I didn't reread them. I just placed them in a box and sealed it shut. That part of my life, maybe it had once been beautiful, but it was over now. I called Jason, my cousin, who was renting out a small apartment in the same neighborhood. I asked if it was still available. He didn't even hesitate. It's yours. No deposit. Just move in. I cried, but not from pain. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I wasn't completely alone. People always imagine that leaving a cheater is something dramatic. A ring thrown across the room, a slap, a screaming match in flames. But that wasn't how it happened. At least not for me. My leaving came in silence. The kind of silence that feels like your last breath before you dive deep, with no intention of resurfacing. I didn't pack in a frenzy, didn't break anything, didn't yell. I simply made a list, one task at a time. As if I were preparing for a long journey, one where the destination was a life no longer haunted by the man who once promised me forever. I withdrew nearly all the remaining money from our joint account. Some I moved into a new account. The rest I put into a temporary savings fund. I changed the passwords to my email, credit cards, and social media. I called the insurance company and changed the beneficiary. I contacted my workplace and took my remaining annual leave, along with some unpaid days. I needed time to move and to heal. Within just a few days, I vanished from the house that once felt like home. While Ethan was at work, I quietly packed only what was necessary. Not much. A few sets of clothes, a small jewelry box, my childhood photo album, legal documents, and my grandmother's old reading chair, the one she used to sit in for hours while telling me stories when I was little. I didn't take much, because I didn't need much. Just enough to come back to life. I moved into Jason's apartment on a rainy Wednesday morning. My cousin had already prepared everything: a set of keys, clean bed sheets, and a small gift basket with instant noodles, cookies, and a handwritten note. Welcome back to your own life. I sat in the tiny kitchen, watching the warm yellow light reflect off white walls. And for the first time in weeks, I could breathe without pain in my chest. Ethan didn't know I had left. I made sure everything happened while he was gone. I didn't leave a message. No goodbye. Just an envelope on the kitchen table, with a copy of the divorce papers and a short handwritten note. You said I didn't know how to keep a husband. Let's see if my sister can keep you. I left the house keys and my wedding ring, placed right on top of the divorce papers like a silent full stop. That night, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. The first call was from Ethan, then another and another. I didn't answer. On the fourth try, he left a voicemail. His voice was shaky, no longer the cold man from before. Vivian, where are you? Please come home. Let's talk, okay? I messed up. I don't know how it got this far. It's my fault. But we can fix this. We always fix things, don't we? I listened, then deleted it. Not because I didn't feel anything, but because I had already felt too much. The next day, Ethan called my parents. But this time, they didn't tell me to think it through. My mom sent me a single message. If you need me, I will always be here for you. My dad? He called Ethan and said just one sentence. Don't you ever step into my house again. On the third night after I left, I received a voice recording. Ethan on the phone with someone. I assumed it was Jade. He said, just don't do anything stupid, okay? This will all blow over. She's just angry. She'll calm down. Don't worry. I don't know how that recording ended up with me. Maybe Carla, maybe a mutual friend. But when I heard it, I didn't cry. I smiled. Not out of amusement, but out of pity. Jade texted me too. Not much, just one line. I have nowhere to go. I watched that message appear, then disappear, as she deleted it and replaced it with another. If I could go back, I swear I wouldn't do it. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. I didn't reply. Because forgiveness is a privilege, not an obligation, and I was done being the bigger person just to make others feel better. It's strange how in order to come back to life, sometimes you have to let a part of yourself die. The new apartment wasn't big. No balcony facing the ocean. No dark wood cabinets like the old place. But every morning, I woke up to the sound of birds on the wire, to sunlight on the blanket, and no one next to me making me question my own intuition. I started writing again. Not to publish, not to tell anyone. Just to get it all out, piece by piece. The things that broke me. And then, the things that helped me rise again. I wrote about the first moment I had doubts. The pudding. The way Ethan looked at Jade. The chill in my hands when I discovered the birthday money was gone. The rainy afternoon I walked away with a suitcase and a pride that was no longer whole. I wrote it all. Didn't leave out a single crack. Because only when we truly see our wounds can we start to heal them. I returned to work after 2 weeks of leave. No one asked too many questions, and I didn't offer answers. Just a few close friends knew, and they gave me the space I needed. One colleague, Lauren, invited me to lunch on my first day back. She didn't ask what happened. She didn't pry. She simply handed me a home-cooked lunchbox and said, "I don't know what you've been through, but I know you're still here, and that alone is more than enough." I almost cried right there at the table. A week later, I received the final divorce papers. Ethan didn't show up in court. He let his lawyer handle everything. I wasn't surprised. He's always been good at hiding behind people when things got ugly. I got the majority of the shared assets. I kept the joint savings. Ethan kept the house, but had to pay me my share of its value. The car stayed under my name. I didn't ask for compensation, didn't drag it out. I just wanted to leave, quietly, because sometimes you don't need to win the battle. You just need to walk away. I later heard that Jade moved out of my parents' house after a few weeks. My mom said the atmosphere had become too heavy. She moved in with a friend. I didn't ask who. I didn't care. All I knew was this. Since the day I walked away, I never once looked back. On my next birthday, I went alone to a small beach town in the south. No one knew where I went. I booked a wooden cabin on the hillside with a little deck facing the sea. That night, I lit a candle, poured myself a glass of wine, and wrote one line in my journal. "Happy birthday, Vivian. Thank you for not abandoning yourself." Then I placed my hand over my heart and closed my eyes, no longer waiting for anyone to remember the day I was born, no longer hoping for a gift from someone who had lost the right to stand beside me. I realized I was the gift. I never saw Ethan again. And honestly, I didn't need to. I heard he switched companies, apparently because of some internal scandal. Some of his former coworkers whispered that the story of a man caught cheating on his wife with her sister had made its way around and seriously damaged his reputation. I didn't confirm it. I didn't deny it either, because it was no longer my concern. As for Jade, she texted a few more times, sometimes just a sad emoji, sometimes the same robotic apology, repeated over and over. I never responded, not because I hadn't forgiven her, but because forgiveness doesn't mean letting someone return to the same place in your life. One quiet weekend afternoon, I was organizing my bookshelf when my brother Robert called. He sent me a photo. It was the very first birthday card we ever made for our mom. back when I was 8 years old. He'd found it in an old photo album. I stared at that picture for a long time. We used to be a family. We used to laugh together, eat dinner together, say I love you without needing to protect ourselves. But not everyone makes it through the journey with their heart intact. And that's okay. Because I've learned how to protect the part of me that's still whole. I'm Vivian. I once lost everything, but I walked through the darkness on my own. I'm no longer the woman who was betrayed by her husband and her sister. I'm the woman who stood back up after the fall. If you've ever been betrayed, if you've ever been broken by someone you loved, if you've ever been in a relationship that made you forget who you were, know this: you are not alone. At her side of the story, we tell real stories through the voices of brave women. Women who once fell, but refused to stay down. Women who chose healing over hiding. Who chose truth and reclaimed their voice. So don't forget to subscribe for more emotional, powerful, and healing stories just like this one. Because sometimes, all it takes is one story, at the right moment, to save a soul that's been silent for far too long.